inside of Mark Stein's piece over the weekend, when he kind of went into more so Markkanens' contract details and the kind of nuances around that, which was really interesting and kind of suggests to me that the Warriors can probably wait another month here and we'll get far more clarity on what Utah want to do with Lauri in the next month, because he is extension eligible as of August 6th, right? But the interesting thing with that is if they do re-sign him with the thought that they are still going to trade him down the track. Now, first of all, they can't trade him for 6 months after they extend him. But then 6 months from August 6th is February 6th, and that is the February mid-season deadline. That is deadline day. And so, therefore, if they want to trade Lauri Markkanen mid-season, they have to ensure they do an extension on August 6th for him to be eligible to be traded right in the final 24 hours before the deadline on February 6th. So that's super fascinating. Because, I mean, otherwise they could not extend him and they could just play this out. But I'm not sure why they would, because the further they play it out without actually extending him, then like the greater threat there is that he could just wait it out himself, not sign anything and leave as an unrestricted free agent next season. Like, I think the Jazz, if they're going to move him, they're going to want full value for him. And the absolute full value you're probably going to be able to get is extend him. So he's got basically 4 or 5 years or whatever left on his contract, and then trading him at the mid-season deadline, where teams are going to, again, line up to get him, especially if we basically know that, hey, this guy's going to be available on deadline day. So it would make for a very interesting final 24 hours of the trade period. There's no doubt about that. But I think that's how they would get max value. The issue is for the Jazz, and this is why I remain somewhat hopeful and somewhat optimistic, glass half full, that they might actually trade him before they extend him, is that if they extend him and then they have to wait 6 months before they trade him and wait till February 6th, well, February 6th is like 50 games into the season, right? And there's a chance by that point that the Jazz have racked up, I don't know, 20 to 25 wins, let's say, with Markkanen, playing as he has done the last couple of seasons, averaging over 23 points a game. And by that point, they might be out of the picture to get like a real bottom seeding, to get, access to high draft picks and a strong chance in the lottery. And that's the issue for the Jazz. And that is the entire reason, like, people asking why they wanting to trade a guy the caliber of Lauri Markkanen. Well, here's a guy who is a top 20, 25, top 30, whatever you want to say, player in the league. But he's not a top 10 player in the league. No, I don't think anyone's arguing he's a top 10 player in the league. And to be really good in this league, right, to be a superstar caliber team, to be a championship caliber team, you need a top 10 guy, essentially. Now, the Celtics are probably the closest thing. Like, Tatum's probably the end of the top 10. Maybe he's outside the top 10, he's 11 or 12. Either way, he's close to that mark, kind of thing. And we know, obviously, how well-rounded the Celtics roster is. But if you go back through, like, obviously, Jokic the year before, Curry the year before that, Giannis the year before that, LeBron the year before that, like, it goes, Kawhi in 2019, the Warriors years with Steph and KD. Like, clearly history that shows you need a minimum a top 10 guy, probably a top 5 guy to win a championship. And Lauri Markkanen doesn't project as that player for the Utah Jazz. And then as a result, what's their best way of actually going to get a guy who could be top 5, top 10 player in the league? Well, clearly for a slightly smaller market team like Utah, it's through the draft. And so really, to get access to a guy who could project, obviously it's a risk, like, nothing, in the draft is a given, but to potentially get, Cooper Flagg as the number 1 pick next year, you can't really have Lauri Markkanen on your roster because he's going to help you win games. He's going to help you win games, and therefore you're going to finish with the 8th or 10th pick in the draft, right? Which could still get you a solid player. Maybe you get really lucky and you get a guy who actually does develop into a top 10 guy in the league. But ultimately, you want a top 3 pick, hopefully the number 1 pick, particularly in a strong draft like next year. And so the Jazz are in a bit of a tough spot where it's, well, to get maximum value for Lauri, like, we probably need to extend him and then trade him at February 6th. But then February 6th is going to be too late for them to, like, tank next season.